So what have you been watching?
Oh gosh, loads, because I've still been festivaling this week. So I'll run through what I've seen, obviously, at the festival. So the first thing I got to see was the Gus Van Sant film Dead Man's Wire with Dacre Montgomery and Bill Skarsgård. That was so good. Like, it's genuinely really funny as well. Like, I was expecting something very serious and weighty and full of its own, like, messages and ethics and all this sort of thing. It was actually really, really funny. And you kind of come out of it going, well, he had a point. And it feels very like and I think I said this in the review, it feels very like the films of the 70s, and that it's very reactive to what's going on in the world, cost of living crisis, people being priced out of various markets, etc. And obviously at the time it's set, people agreed with his character, saying like, oh, we don't necessarily agree with the kidnapping, but yeah, I've been screwed over by a mortgage company, or I've had, financial problems. So it was a really, really good watch. And the two leads in it are, because it really just is kind of them on screen for a lot of the time, they are brilliant. So I think that will do well when it comes out in cinemas here. I also watched a screener for a film called The Tasters, which is based on a book that I've read about women who were made to taste Hitler's food during World War II to check that it wasn't poisoned. And that had Max Reinfeldt in it, who's a German actor whose work I'm quite familiar with. And I thought that was a really good film. My kind of film. It's a World War II drama. And, there's a little bit of romance, there's a little bit of violence, there's a little bit of personal drama, and I just thought it was really well acted and really well put together, because a lot of the scenes are contained within this sort of tasting room, and you're sort of watching them put the food in their mouths, and you're kind of panicking, and what, are they going to be sick, all this sort of thing. So I thought that was really good. Review coming soon to Moviescramble.
Brilliant.
I also went to see Carrie for the 50th anniversary screening. Me and the girls from Final Girls Glasgow, we got all dressed up in our prom dresses. We were cutting about finishing on a Tuesday night looking like I don't know what, quite frankly. We had a lovely meal beforehand and then a really good screening. It was really well done by the film festival. You got to get your photos taken under the class of 76 sign. They also had the white cross with the hand coming up the ground. You could get your photo taken with that. And then at the start of the film, so we'd all sit and we were right up the back, because that's the only way we could get seats together. And at the start of the film, which was hosted in the Pyramids in Anderson, this girl just appeared from the side of the stage, and she had the Carrie prom dress on, and she was soaked in blood. And people from the audience, who were obviously plants that we didn't realise, but one was sitting right in the row in front of us, jumped up and we were like, Carrie, we were just kidding. And one guy tried to tank out of her own. He fell and he was like crawling along the middle aisle, and she just followed them down. It was so good. It was so, like, it made you feel really immersed in it. It was just, it was really good fun. It was a really, really good night. But needless to say, there was too much red wine consumed and had a bit of a sore head the next day. So a fantastic Welsh language film that I watched called Effio Blaenau. Thank you very much to David Osger for the pronunciation of how to say that. It's based on a play. It was called Iphigenia in Splot, that toured around Scotland for a while. I think it won quite a few prizes up here. But basically it tells the story of a young girl, sort of working class Welsh rural community, and she ends up pregnant, and there's a lot of complications that go along with that. But it genuinely blew me away. I was in floods of tears. It's so well acted. It's one of those, like, it feels like a properly British film. Do you know what I mean? It's a story that could only be told about certain locations within the UK. Incredibly well acted, as I've said. And I just thought that's up there as like being one of the best of the festival that I've seen. So if it gets a UK wide release, which I hope it does, I would encourage people to go and see it. The next thing that I saw was the surprise film at the Glasgow Film Festival, which was Splitsville, which is a comedy starring Dakota Johnson. It's about two couples, basically. One of them are on the brink of divorce, and the other one are in a sort of like open marriage, and it's how they sort of end up all sort of messy and romantic entanglements. The first hour was genuinely hilarious. Like, everyone in the crowd was really up for it, laughing, having a good time. But the second hour really lost the plot in terms of pacing, and I don't think romantic comedies need to be over 2 hours long at all. So it's worth a watch if it comes to a streamer. Like, as I say, the first hour is genuinely hilarious, but I felt like it lost its way a little bit and then sort of scrambled to tidy it all up at the end. But as surprise films go, it was good because you're watching so much heavy, weighty, emotional dramas throughout the film festival, that a nice light comedy was actually very much needed. So that was good. Last view from the festival, I saw Rebuilding with Josh O'Connor, which is about a sort of rancher who loses his home in a forest fire, and he is made to go live in a sort of caravan park that the government set up, and he sort of tries to obviously rebuild his life but reconnect with his daughter and his ex-wife and his ex-mother-in-law. I thought it was good, but I thought he was miscast. I felt he was too young to be this sort of like world-weary cowboy. He just didn't really have the kind of weight maybe that I was looking for. Next thing I saw was Agnieszka Holland's biopic of Franz Kafka, which is quite simply called Franz. And that was fantastic. I think if you love Kafka's work, you're going to really enjoy this film, because it's quite it's a straightforward biopic in terms of like the narrative is linear, but it's told in quite an unconventional way. Like, she reimagines scenes from his short stories. She sort of intersperses his life with people visiting the Kafka museum. So at times it looks like he's trapped, like sort of in his own museum. And the lead performance, Edan Weiss, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is phenomenal. I think he captures all of his sort of like idiosyncrasies and OCD and foibles really perfectly, and he looks right into the camera quite a lot, and you kind of feel him sort of like burning his gaze into your soul. So that was really, really good. I saw a film called Redoubt, which is a black and white film set in Cold War Sweden about a farmer called Karl Joran who decides to build a bomb shelter for his community, and how he's sort of like ridiculed by the community for doing that. But, you know, he sort of insists this is his way of helping. It's quite an ambiguous wee film. Like, you never really get an understanding of, is this all in his head? What happens to him at the end? You know, is the villagers' reactions even like genuine, or is this just something that he's picking out? It was very beautiful to look at, though. The black and white obviously is really striking. I think if you like those sorts of films where there's like hardly any speech and all of it's done through like facial expression, because Denis Lavant, who is the lead actor, is like a French acrobat, so he's very physical in his performance. It's quite an interesting wee film. And the last film I saw at the festival was James McAvoy's directorial debut, California Scheming, which tells the story of Syllable and the Brain, two Dundonian rappers who pretended they were American in order to break through into the music industry, but also to sort of expose the elitist nature of London arts and culture circles as well. And as I say, I'm under embargo, but all I will say is it's the only press screening that I've ever been to where there's been a round of applause at the end. So
nice.
Make of that what you will.
Yeah, I'm going to see California Scheming in 3 weeks, I think it is.
We have to talk about it.
It's been noted as one of the press screenings at the end of the month. On the 30th of March, I think it is. And I also have a screener for the Tasters as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, the publicity company. I'm on various lists, and they send out stuff occasionally saying, "No, this is coming out, this is coming out." And weirdly enough, they didn't actually mention the Glasgow Film Festival screening. It just said it's coming out, obviously, in general.
Oh, so it's not the festival that I got it through. Sorry, I had seen that it was coming out, and because I've read the book, I actually emailed the PR company.
Right. Oh, it's probably the same one.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, they got in touch with me and sent me a screener. So I'll give that a watch, and we can talk about that at some point as well. And the Redoubt one, I have actually posted a preview of it up on the site because, again, came through a publicity company with the trailer and everything, and like I say, it's very stark, black and white, no filtering. It just seems to be very, very bleak.
It's a very, very strange film in the sense that, as I say, you don't ever get a sense of like, is this real? What's happening? And obviously, like, strange casting as well, like a French acrobat as a Swedish farmer as well. Like, but I mean, to my ears, obviously I'm not Swedish, but to my ears, the little that he did say was pronounced like, you know, really perfectly. So I think it will definitely make an interesting one, again, possibly to talk about. But that was obviously playing as part of the Take a Chance on Me section of the film festival, and thanks to that section of the film festival, I cannot get that friggin' ABBA song out of my head.
Fair enough, yeah. Well, what you should do is sing Happy Birthday. That's what That's the breakout tune. That's what it's
Really?
been. Yeah, scientifically proven. If you start singing "Happy Birthday" to yourself in your head, then it breaks up earworms. Apparently.
But then what happens if you get "Happy Birthday" stuck in your head? How do you get that out?
A whole different problem, isn't it? But apparently it works. I've been
okay. Well, I'll give it a go.
Reliably informed by Google. So for myself, I've been watching a few movies this week. I watched the animated film Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, which is on Netflix. There is 3 of them, I think. And this is the first one of it. It's set 10,000 years in the future, where a colony of Earthlings left Earth in order to find a new home, because basically Godzilla had taken it over after, well, events of G-Day and all that. And it was after that, and they had to leave. And they've been searching for habitable planets for many, many years. It seems like many years, but the way that physics actually works is it turns out by doing these jumps in space, they are actually 10,000 years ahead. So they go back to Earth on the hope that it's actually habitable, only to find things aren't quite, what it needs to be for them and everything as well. And it's good. It's a lovely sort of Japanese style animation, and it works really well as well. It's a cracking film. I was really quite taken with it, and I'm looking forward to watching the second and third part of it as well, because obviously there's a fair amount of sort of Godzilla and Toho monsters sort of stuff out there, and obviously with the second season of Monarch start as well. So yeah, all good. Like a bit of monster.
Yeah, I feel like you're on this kind of vibe at the moment. Like a lot, you've been watching a lot, like the Predator and all that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, I also have. I bought downloads of the majority of the Godzilla films as well, so I'm thinking about doing a wee watch over some of those I haven't seen, and a lot of them are really, really ropey as well.
Yeah.
So
are you turning into Simmy? Is this what's happening?
To be honest, I don't think I was that far away from Simmy to begin with. In terms of my watching, it wasn't quite as extreme as some of the stuff that the watching number 7 and number 8 in a series of films. But yeah, I'm kind of getting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good. Watched that. I also watched Knock at the Cabin, the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Oh, I have that on my planner because it was on film 4.
Yes, it was film 4 that I actually recorded it from, and I watched that Monday night. It's a brilliant wee film. It's really tight.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, I won't tell you anything about. Have you seen it already?
No, not at all. But the trailer, I saw Dave Bautista, and I thought, okay, I'm going to record that. I quite like him.
Yep. Well, I won't spoil it for you in any way, because it's one of these films that you want to figure out while it's actually being shown to you. So don't read anything about it before, because it's an interesting wee premise to it as well. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed that. Countering that, I watched a 1952 black and white noir film called Assignment Paris, which stars George Sanders and Dana Andrews. It's about the New York Tribune newspaper, their international desk in Paris, and this is set during the sort of early part of the Cold War sort of time period, the early 50s, and there's all sorts of stuff going on with some of the reporters being held as spies by the Hungarian authorities, and they're breaking all these stories about the links between Hungary and Russia, and sort of secret meetings that's going on and all this sort of stuff. And they send like this reporter, Dana Andrews, to Budapest in order to investigate, and he gets sort of taken by the authorities and accused of being a spy and tortured and all this. And it's a bit slight, and it's kind of American propaganda, because they're all the good guys, the American press are the good guys, the American authorities are the good guys in it, and you're thinking, well, through the lens of history, that's not quite that was on Talking Pictures TV, so it was watchable on Film 4, and I think it's on 4 on demand as well. I watched Lifeboat, the Alfred Hitchcock
Oh
film.
my God, is that on there? Okay, I need to get a wee recording of that.
That's cracking.
Yeah.
It's Tula Bankhead is in the main. Excuse me a minute. Yeah, Tula Bankhead is in the main role. Mm-hmm. She is on the boat first, and then the others start piling onto it. You must have seen it. You will have seen it.
I've seen clips. Well, do you know, I've never seen the full film. I've only ever seen clips. So I didn't realise that was available on film 4.
I watched it and thought, I've seen this before. And then when I started watching, I thought, I don't think I have actually. I've not seen this at all. And the wee Hitchcock cameo, and it's really good in this one as well, because it's difficult with it, only like 8 people in a boat. How do you get, him floating by on a double bass or something,
If that's not how he appears in this film, I'm going to actually be quite disappointed.
Yeah, so that was a cracking wee film, because it's these people trying to survive on a lifeboat, and they pick up somebody, and it turns out he's from a German U-boat which sank the ship that they were on. And it's all the sort of back and forth between them, and it was a cracking movie, really good. I was really sort of enthralled by it. I thought it was a very good cast, and it was very well made as well, which was probably like a real positive about it as well. I watched Beyond the Time Barrier, which is a 1960s sort of B movie on Talking Pictures TV again. It's about a US naval airman, and he does these test pilot flights. And when you get to a certain speed in the sort of experimental plane that he's in, he actually breaks the time barrier and is hurtled forward to the year 2024. Where the world has gone to shit. Basically,
that sounds accurate. Yeah,
there's been plagues in the 70s and things, and society has kind of altered in a couple of different ways. There's mutants who are sort of lifeless, and they don't know what's going on, but they're dangerous at the same time. And there's a society built up which actually cages all the mutants, but slowly they're going sterile as well. So they're not able to reproduce. So with this pilot turning up, they see the opportunity for him to be sort of the prime man in order to start reproducing, with the daughter of the president of the society, who cannot speak, but apparently she is still fertile. But he obviously has other ideas, and he wants to get back to his own time, things like that. It's really shoddy the way that it's done. It's typical sort of 1960s B movies, with a sort of very, very low sort of production value. The sets look really strange, and they're just, a bit cardboardy and things like that. Some of the acting's really, really bad in it as well. There's nobody in it that you've ever heard of. But for that, I did actually watch it all the way through. I never switched it off. Yeah. It's one of these ones you just kind of go, yeah, fair enough. Because I've seen loads of these type of films over the years, because they used to show them all sort of late night telly and things like that, and you would get these kind of really sort of rubbishy movies. So yeah, I was fairly interested, quite enjoyed that. I watched Riddick, the Vin Diesel film from, it's about 2015, 2016. It's the third one in the Riddick series, and that was actually pretty decent. He's kind of, at this point, he's kind of turning into a bit of a one-liner kind of a action hero, because he kind of says a lot of stuff. So it's fairly decent, and it's a different sort of type of film. The second film, the Chronicles of Riddick film, was a massive big film. It had big sets and lots of fighting and action and stuff. This is more sort of self-contained on a planet where he is crash landed, and the initial part of it's him just trying to survive, and then he activates a beacon, so somebody comes to collect him. They're bounty hunters, and there's a prize on his head. So it's all their sort of interactions, and then it gets a wee bit more actiony and things. But fairly decent. Enjoyed it.
Am I making this up, or is Judi Dench in one of those films?
I think she's in the second film, yes. I think you're right. Yeah, Carl Urban is in the second film as well. So yeah. Yeah, but this was all right. And apparently there is a fourth film in the works as well. There has been for a number of years. It was supposed to sort of come to fruition, I think, 2 years ago, but it's still Vin Diesel's slate, so I can see him coming back and doing that at some point as well. And I rewatched In a Lonely Place as well, which is Gloria Graham and Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart is a screenwriter who is accused of murder, and she is his alibi in it because she lives across the way from him in this sort of apartment complex, and they start having a relationship. But he is sort of broken in a lot of ways. He's not a particularly nice person to be around at times, and she starts to doubt what she actually saw, whether she actually did provide him with the alibi or not, and all that. And that was just a, classic sort of noir film, and there's a nice wee tagline to it and everything as well. And it's one of the lines that he writes as part of a screenplay that he's inspired to write, sort of forms the basis of what it's all about. Like, I lived for a few weeks while I met her, and I died afterwards. And I've obviously completely butchered that, but it's like this lovely wee phrase, and I should have written it down. Yeah. So apart from that, obviously I've been watching a few movies for what we're going to talk about later on, and watched a wee bit of telly as well. Back watching High Potential, which is on Disney, which is the crime drama, if you like, about a woman who has a massively high IQ and helps out the Los Angeles Police Department.
I do remember you mentioned this before,
Yeah, so there's a second season of that, so I've been starting watching that. Again, I sort of went off it for ages and ages, but it's fairly light and easy. I know we're talking about murders and things here, but it's more of a whodunit kind of thing rather than, like brutal and bloody. So that's fairly decent. And I've also been rewatching stuff on Sky Arts. I don't know if you've seen it. Oh, you probably have seen some of this. There's 2 series called Discovering Film and The Directors.
Yes.
Yeah,
I've seen those. They're good.
I watched loads and loads of them maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and then didn't watch any more. So I've built up like a number of them to watch again. The Directors one's reasonably recent, and it's the same team that does it. Basically, they take the Discovering Film, they take an actor and they go through their filmography. They talk about how they came into the business, and it's just all talking heads. It's just people it's all critics more than anything else, and they just talk in turn about various elements of, like, say, Cary Grant or Charlie Chaplin or Steve McQueen or whatever. But they also do one now about film directors as well, and how they rise and how their career rose and fell and things like that. And it's really interesting. And again, they're like 45, 50 minutes at a time. So it's a nice wee filler sometimes just to watch that. And it's a nice wee bit about film history and stuff like that as well. So yeah, it's all good. Apart from that, yesterday afternoon, I should say, I was at the opera. I went to see Tristan und Isolde, which is a Wagner opera. And with 2 intervals of 25 minutes, it was 5 hours long. It was a bit of a bum number, that one. And it was done in such a way that it wasn't actually staged. You had the orchestra actually on stage, and the performance were in front of it. There's maybe only like 7 performers in the whole thing, and just like a very small chorus in the first 2 acts, I think. So they come on, and they were in costume, and there was sort of like maybe just 1 or 2 props, and they would come on and they do all this. So the story, see how I've put opera into one phrase. The story behind this is Isolde is an Irish queen who has a way about her with potions and lotions. She can fix people and do certain things using these potions. She is captured by Tristan, whose uncle is the King of Cornwall, and he has persuaded his uncle that he needs a new bride because he's been alone for so long. So he goes and finds Isolde, basically there's a battle, kills all her people and takes her back, and she's obviously resentful of this. So her and her handmaiden come up with this idea that they should conjure up a death potion and feed it to Tristan. But the handmaiden thinks this is a bit extreme. So what she does is she makes up a love potion instead and doesn't tell Isolde. So Isolde persuades Tristan to actually take this, thinking it's a death potion, saying, you need to atone for the fact that you've killed all these people. You know, you're a really bad person. And eventually he agrees.
Yeah, you fucking incel.
Yeah. He takes it. She has a change of heart, thinking he can't die alone. So I've obviously done a really bad thing. So she drinks it as well. And of course, bang, they fall in love right away because of this. And they're on a ship actually traveling back to Cornwall at the time. And then they arrive in Cornwall. They're both, oh joyous, love and everything, and then they go off the boat and the king's there. And the king is obviously a bit pissed off because Isolde wants to be with Tristan and shows it. And then the next 3 hours is them actually expressing that there's a whole section, basically it was in 3 sections. And the middle section basically was them extolling their love for each other in song, which, yeah, you kind of get the point after a couple of minutes, yeah, they're into each other, And then there's a betrayal, and the king sends his right-hand man in order to kill Tristan. But of course he doesn't die right away. There's a whole act where he's lying there with a sword wound and still expressing his love for Isolde and all that. And there's a big climax where basically so many people die. And the thing is, this is all the fault of the handmaiden, because she did this in the first place. And at the very end, she says, oh, I told the king what happened and why they're acting that way. So the king was coming to sort of forgive them. But if she told them as soon as they got off the boat, one, we could have all left after 2 hours. And 2, there wouldn't have been this misunderstanding between them. But it was beautifully staged, and the music's really good, obviously, as sort of late period sort of Wagner, and it's just sumptuous. It's massive sound, like sort of full orchestras employed for most of this. So you've got to feel for them being, sort of front and center for the majority of it. And the 2 leads as well, they spend so much time singing. It is like a real sort of marathon sort of performance as well. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was good fun. But starting at 3 and finishing at 8 because it's so long, and they're only doing 2 performances of it in Glasgow, and I think they're doing a couple in Edinburgh because it's such a big performance as well. And it was very different to the majority of operas that I've seen, in that there's no sort of big staging of it.
Because opera is usually quite lavish in terms of the staging and costumes, but I mean, fair play to the performers as well, because they must have to just not speak whenever they're not performing to preserve their vocal cords the entire time.
Oh yeah, well that's why there's limited performances, because it's such a strain on them. But one of the performers, the person who played King Mark in it, when they were doing their dress rehearsals, the guy lost his voice. He couldn't sing properly, so they had to draft somebody else in, and he had less than 2 days notice to basically, obviously he must have known the part, but in order to sort of work this up into a performance piece in less than 2 days is fairly monumental. And they came in flawless, just did it. Absolutely brilliant. But the effort it must have been involved in that was quite something.
And what language was it sung in?
It was sung in German, obviously. But yes, they tend to do them in the language that they were written.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are English versions of them that have been done previously, so they will do them, but they don't tend to do them in anything other than their sort of native tongue. And it's obviously the super titles and everything are doing an awful lot of the heavy lifting with actually telling you the story and all that kind of thing. But even then, you would kind of get an idea of what's going on and everything, So yeah, that was pretty decent. So that was my week in entertainment.